I evolved into a photo evangelist because when you do photography, you capture the essence of the person and you should be able to see that person. So that goes more spiritual. And I tell you, I was in the professional world, nonprofit, for many, many years. I'm a Gulf War vet, so I have a diverse amount of experience. I'm from Thomasville, Georgia. Most people that come to Houston are transplants. The people that actually came outside of Houston, when they're talking about they settled and developed Houston, they came outside of Houston. Because in 1865, June 19th, when they said people were free, everyone didn't leave the plantations. Some people stayed, worked at the plantations, saved money, and then purchased land. But you had a lot of people that packed up everything that they had, started walking, whatever means of transportation that they had, and started going looking for family members, going looking for places to work. A lot of people came here to Houston. Well, they went to places where they could find employment. And along the way, everyone didn't make it to Freemanstown. Freemanstown is the mother ward. It had the largest number of people that came to Houston. That's why it's the mother ward. All your doctors, your lawyers, your businessmen, anyone had substantial wealth lived in Freemanstown. Most people don't know that. When she talked about the shotgun houses, there are different types of houses. You see, anyone ever seen a house where it's just like you can look straight through? Do you know why you can look straight through that house? Why it's called a shotgun house? They tell you, yes.
Because if you have a shotgun, you can basically go to the president back.
Yeah, I was going to say that. But really, it's about the most available technology of the time. That deals with cooling the house. Has to do with the cooling system. So we think of it as something that really is just menial, like not at that level, but really it was designed for technology, and it depends on your walk. So when Freedmen became free, one of the most important things to them was to own land. Land ownership was the most important thing to them. Okay, Freemanstown was settled in 1866. It was the worst part of the land in Houston. You know where the bayou is? See where all that water flooded? Well, guess what? That's where they originally settled before they branched out into other areas. So they were being flooded all the time. Everywhere that Freeman settled was always flooded. What did they do? Use the best available technology, built that land up so that they could live on it. When she talked about the trolleys and the roads, they built that land up. The part where Freemanstown is, guess what? It didn't flood. That part did not flood because it's built up. So what happened to the part that's over by Buffalo Bayou is that that land was taken from homeowners that owned that land so that after World War II, the government could build housing for white World War II veterans. The people did go to court to try to save their land, but they lost. They took it through eminent domain. The last property in Freemanstown that was taken through eminent domain was in the 2000s, and that was for Gregory Lincoln Education Center to expand that. So if you go down to the brick streets where Gregory Lincoln is, at the tip end, part of the brick streets is in that school area that's blocked off because people used to live there, and that land was taken from them as late as the 2000s. Okay, so there's a series of things that happen that cause people to start moving out of Freemanstown and losing their land. If you have not heard of the Camp Logan Riot, anybody heard of Camp Logan Riot? 1917? We just celebrated 100 years. But guess what? It flooded. We had one of the worst floods in the history in the last 1,000 years. It flooded, so people did not get a chance to experience the beautiful display that they have downstairs. I don't know if it's still down there or not, but I hope it is, and I hope y'all get a chance to go check it out. Because World War I was a big turning point for African Americans in America. Anybody know anything about World War I? Did black people fight for the United States in World War I?
Yes.
No, they did not. They were in the military, and they was drafted in the military, and we were sent places in order to do manual labor. Then they decided to come up with the 92nd and the 93rd combat divisions so that they could fight war and we could start getting black officers. And they trained them in Des Moines, those black officers. And so the 92nd and 93rd, they finally shipped over to France. And Pershing said, guess what? You can't fight for the United States. You're going to have to go and fight with France. You're gonna have to go and fight with friends, not for the flag that you came and you joined to fight for. Okay? But within that, there are a lot of people within our history, and they call them service organizations, YMCA, YWCA, Salvation Army, Red Cross, different places like that, that went over to support the soldiers. Okay? They went over to support soldiers. One of the biggest organizations was the YMCA. That was the biggest organization out of all the social service organizations. So what they did was sent secretaries, YMCA secretaries over, and you had to be a person in good faith, good Christian. You had to be the best of the best in order to be drafted as a YMCA secretary. But one of the things people don't know, YMCA secretaries were not all men that went over to France to support our troops. There were some women. There was 23 women that went. 23 women went, and they went on the front lines to support those soldiers. And one of the major things that they did was educate soldiers and teach them how to read, because that was one of our problems. We're not educated, we could not read. They taught them how to read. Okay? So now you have this whole group of different people, this whole different way of thinking. They have their own ideas of what the black race should be, what their race should be, okay? And then they come back to America. You have people that are being hung in uniform, all types of things are happening. But you have soldiers that went over there and fought with France, and they learned something. And so now they're not so willing to be accommodating as we once were before with white people or the American system. So they start developing their own communities, their own things. Yes, we did start in 1866, but the real development started when those soldiers came back. Most of the areas, as far as the YMCA, the YWCA, all those things came out of World War I. That started here in Houston. And people always say YMCA, but guess what? There was a colored YMCA. Because we have to think about segregation. We could not mix with them, but a lot of people were mixing behind the table and talking of different races. And a lot of people did what they needed to do in order to advance the race. And that's what it was about, advancing the race. Okay? Advancing the race. You guys are in an area right now that you have opportunity to take the race somewhere it's never been. And this is a great thing. When I heard that there was African American history, I got all excited, like, yeah! You have to take information and use it to get what you need out of it. You may be on a job that's a great job, and that's great. But don't work to work. Don't be on a job working to work. Work to get what you need out of it to get to that next level, whatever that level may be. Because you're the future. So, how many people have ever seen a picture of someone's family that was a slave? A real living person that was a slave. You? Who else? Who else raised their hands? Okay, guess what? This is what they want you to believe that we were. Yes, at some times, we did look like that when they were selling us on the block. But then as time progressed, this is a slave family. A real, true, live slave family. I'm a descendant of this family. I am the 5th generation of that young lady that's on the very end next to the old lady. Her name is Harriet. That's my grandfather's Harriet. She lived to be 101 years old. So I'm a descendant of those people. And I look at that picture all the time because I lived with my grandparents. You never paid attention to them. I didn't care about what that picture had to say. I always heard what it was saying, but it was always noise. And now that I sit back and listen, that noise is louder and it becomes words and it speaks to me. You have to know who you were in order to get where you're trying to be. At one time, they did not talk about history because it wasn't that they were ashamed of it, it's the pain of it. It's the pain of that history that we have. And so we have gone 5 generations with my family from slaves. And it's a healing process, but the healing process is part of learning and talking about it. Y'all are to a point, but you didn't just get where you are by yourself. You got here on the backs of somebody else. How many times do you look for stuff or look at pictures and you never really see a whole bunch of pictures of black people? All the time. Because we have allowed other people to write our story. We cannot allow someone else to write our story. We have to be the author of that story. So I'm going to show you some people 50 years after slavery, what they look like. Not what they're trying to portray to you, that slave picture, of what we look like. I'm going to show you what they really look like. Okay, see, first 50 years, 1865 to 1915. This is part of Jack Yates' family. See the man with the beard up there? That's actually Jack Yates. But these are members of his families and his descendants. Those are more of Jack Yates' descendants. Now, these are some of the other people that lived in the community, and you can see what their homes look like. Massive, beautiful homes. Guess what? They didn't want you to see that. So those are all mostly torn down. But when you go to Freemanstown, you still can see some of the homes that's there. Quite a few of them. These are other people that's there. So you see the diversity of what the people look like. 50 years after slavery. Now, do any of those people look like anything that you've that's been portrayed to you? No, they don't. We're up to 1915 and 1965. Now, these are the people that came in after World War I and really did a lot of things. As far as the Chamber of Commerce. What I really have a problem with a lot of our history, when you read about certain organizations, they say, oh, prominent men. Well, who were those prominent men? Who were those people? When you go to a lot of churches and you look at the cornerstone has changed from the original people, or there's no cornerstone. Or it has the new pastor's cornerstone when they built that building. You didn't start that church. Because it's really not the building, it's the congregation. When they say it's 150 years old, it's a 150-year-old congregation, not necessarily the building. If you're so lucky to see a building that's over 100 years old, that is great, fantastic. But most often you don't. Most often it's the congregation. Now, these are the guys that really, really came in and had a movement and really, really settled Houston. And don't forget about the Buffalo Soldiers. Believe me, after the Civil War, Buffalo Soldiers resettled the South. They don't give them the credit that they deserve. They resettled the South. Okay? Everything. Those are some bad guys. Buffalo Soldiers. If you don't know anything about them, you are in a historical building right now. This organization celebrated its 150th anniversary last year. Awesome. So many people missed out on so much. Awesome event. This is the national headquarters that you're sitting in right now. They just completed this area not too long ago. This is the national headquarters of the Buffalo Soldiers Museum. He's opening his grand opening on November 11th. So if you have opportunity of changing a lot of things around, please come. Please come out and support it. Because it's historical. Now, look at these faces. You see the transformation and the difference in those people? These are the people that did this. The chamber, all these. You never see pictures. You cannot find pictures of these people anywhere. All of these people. Now, we get to 1965 to 2015. I'm a visual person because I want you to see. Okay? These are what some of the people look like. They kind of change a little bit. And these are descendants of some of those other people that were involved and engaged. See how I fit into history? So we want to show you some up-to-date pictures. Now, let's talk about you. 2015 to 2065. That is what you're going to do. What you're going to do to transform the black community, African American community, whatever you want to call it. Because throughout history, other people have defined us of what our name is, Negro, black. Even had a name for when you was 1/8 black, 1/4 black. Then they got to where you just black, mulatto. When they talk about mixed races, mulatto, that's not new. We've been that for a long time. The only thing that's new is that we're choosing to mix those races now in who we love. Not because somebody's taking it from us and deciding that for us and breeding us the way they want us to breed. We're deciding that. So you're creating the race that you want the future to be. And that's exactly what you're doing. You're creating that. So that's you. 2015 to 2065. I want y'all to really think of that. And you can't even grasp that in your mind right now. And like I told you before, do not work to work. We have to create generational wealth. That's part of it, because money talks. There are a lot of people that are in a lot of positions, but they accommodate in order to get the money from whoever to support. But see, what happens is that we all age and we all get old. What are you willing when you get to that point to give up in order to try to meet status quo? What are you willing to give up? Most times, because we have not accumulated generational wealth, is that we end up living in poverty, or things just doesn't work out right, or we don't own anything. We don't own our homes. We rent. So you don't own it. So you have to own it. You have to own it. You have to vote. People died for you to have a voice to vote. I can't begin to tell you how many lawsuits were formed by these men in order to have the right to vote in the Democratic Party because they was locked out. And we're talking about within the last 50 years. This is not a long time, people. It's not a long time. So you're the future. Guess who belongs there? Whose face belongs there? That's right. Your faces belong there. And I'm getting old. So I'm gonna need y'all to raise up and be leaders like I know y'all can be, because I don't believe that they will be investing in you guys unless you were worth it and they knew that you had what it takes. Now, when I first came in, I set up my camera. The young man said, "Why? What is that? Why?" You know why I set up that camera record? I set up that camera record so I can look at myself to make sure that I'm not using fillers, that I'm looking at the audience, that I'm looking at everyone, and I'm giving you eye contact. And to get your feedback for how you are. Most times when people use fillers, like you know why they use that? Because a train of thought is not totally there. When you're talking and you want to be heard, you come up to the front, you stand up, and you say what you have to say, and you look at these people that you're talking to. You look them in their eyes and let them know, so they know that you're serious about what you're talking about. Why are you talking about all this racism things going on? This is not something new. I believe that social revolution happens every 50 years. Every 50 years, social revolution happens. We're at the beginning of it right now. You're in it, and we're living it. You can decide for it to go to elevate the race here, or to lower what we've already had. But that's going to be your decision. You're going to have to fight that, because you belong in that 2015 to 2065 category. Okay? You're going to have a lot of people coming here to talk to you about Houston Black history. But the thing about Houston Black history, it all fed back to the Mother Ward, which is 4th Ward. Whether you was in 5th Ward, Independence Heights, anywhere in the city, it always came back to 4th Ward. That's where the money was invested in the community, was in 4th Ward. That's where all the businesses were. Next time that you are riding by downtown and you see Doubletree Hotel, I want you to remember that's where the Pilgrim Building was. That was the most magnificent building ever built for African Americans in this community. Booker T. Washington was right across the street from it. The most magnificent building built for African Americans. It operated from 1926 to 1965. And if it's the most magnificent building, why is it torn down? Why is it no longer there for you to see and know of any evidence that Black people own that building? Black people commissioned to have that building built. Why is it no longer there for you to see? So you need to go beyond the books that are being provided for you with information they want you to know, and learn real substance, real information. Everything you read is not real. Fake news has been around for a really long time. A really long time. When they wanted to seem like African Americans were at fault, that's how the news came. And they would put you in the white papers. They would do all these things because that's the narrative they wanted you to know. So you have to change the narrative to what you want it to be. Okay? But just understand, everything came and invested in the 4th Ward because that's where everything was. Okay? I have a book coming out called The Colored YMCA next year. It's going to be, the Colored YMCA is going to be 100 years old. Okay, I worked for the YMCA for 18 years. And I opened the first YMCA in the country named after a professional sports team. And that's the Houston Texans YMCA right there on Griggs and MLK. But let me tell you, everybody has a destination in life. You're designed for something in life. And you don't always know what that is. But I give you a piece of advice, you have to believe in something higher than yourself. And just because you're going through bad times and rough times, it's just a setup. It's just a setup for a better outcome. You just don't know what it is. And it seems like it takes forever. And it takes forever because what's in store for you is great. So it's going to take God a little bit longer to get there. And understand that church was the center of every community. The church is the center. So that's how everything fed. The church was involved with everything. Everything during that time that was developed, it was there. Okay? So I know I can talk. I know this. But I just wanted to give you a message that was a message of inspiration and to take you somewhere. So you're young professionals, young leaders. So there's some things that you must do in order to elevate to the next level. Anybody ever heard of the 3 T's? About using your time, your talent, and your treasures.